The first job was actually washing dishes at the Elks Club in my little hometown. So
right on.
12 years old, needed money for, everything a 12-year-old needs money for back then. And
slingshots, BB guns,
baseball cards.
Actually bought a car. I bought a car. Yeah, I bought a '56 Ford Fairlane.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Download from Tier 4 HQ here in Alpharetta, Georgia. Beautiful Alpharetta, Georgia. We are excited to be back in front of you and talking about, trending technology news, insights, and thought leadership from some of the best and brightest technology leaders in the industry. Joined here by Ted Turkington at Effectual. Ted, introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ted Turkington with Effectual. I'm the regional sales manager here out of Atlanta, Georgia. And we help customers in their cloud journey. So we'll talk more about that today.
Yeah, looking forward to getting into that as well. Joel Andersen, the trusty steed here at the Download. Joel, say hi to the group.
Hey, you can't get rid of me. I keep coming back.
We don't want to get rid of you. That's good. Thanks for being here again. Good stuff. So again, my name is Jake Sherrill. I'm the founder and chairman of Tier 4 Advisors. If you've tuned in before, you know the drill. But for those new viewers and listeners, I started the company a little bit over 9 years ago on the premise of helping IT professionals simplify and expedite their procurement processes and projects. We help you in 5 key categories: data center and everything that falls in that category, telecom, everything that falls in that category like SD-WAN, telephony, UCaaS, contact centers, things like that. Managed services, third category, security compliance, and what we call emerging tech, so artificial intelligence, machine learning, anything cutting edge, bleeding edge, where you think, hey, that might be interesting to, try out. It might be, good for the company. You can go out and Google search or go to a bunch of conferences and try and figure it out on your own, or you can call Tier 4 Advisors or find us at tier4advisors.com. And chances are we've done a project like that once or a few hundred times before. So we keep all the notes and all the quotes from all the projects that we've done. Help to simplify your next project if you want to give us a call. A little bit different, by the way. We're not really the vendor in the sense of selling you anything, but instead sitting on your side of the table. And we make our money from our vendor partners on the back end rather than charging you a professional services engagement as well. Assuming, of course, that the project is approved, and we do have an approval process before we get engaged. Anyways, enough about Tier 4, and let's go ahead and get right into it, shall we, Joel?
Let's do it.
All right, so Ted, let's talk about a little, kind of get to know you a little bit.
Sure.
We always like to ask our podcast guests, how they kind of got into what they're doing right now. So we turn the clock way back to the first job. And again, a lot of people love this segment of the podcast because we get to learn, about people who did farming or, worked at their uncle's auto shop or something like that.
The movie theater, sweeping up the popcorn.
There you go.
I've heard that one, so yeah. So
JOB, what was your first one?
The first JOB was actually washing dishes at the Elks Club in my little hometown. So
right on.
12 years old, needed money for, everything a 12-year-old needs money for back then. And
slingshots, BB guns,
baseball cards.
I actually bought a car. I bought
a car.
Yeah, I bought a '56 Ford Fairlane from a buddy of mine, and it sat in the backyard with the 16-year-old me waiting for the day so I could take it out.
Well,
okay, so hold on. I'm going to dig a little deeper here because this is what we do here at the Download. So you're 12, getting a job at the Elks Lodge, right? Washing dishes.
Washing dishes.
You bought a car. It sat in the backyard. When did you buy the car? How old were you?
Like 13. I'd saved up enough.
13. You'd saved enough money to buy a car by the time you were 13.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. Any person out there that is younger than 16 that talks about, I got to, my parents owe me a car or something like that, my friends, is pretty impressive. So it sat in the backyard for 3 years?
Sat in the backyard.
Did it work when you went to start it when you turned 16?
It still worked, yep.
Okay.
And I actually, my job after the Elks Club was working in a used car lot where I learned how to do everything I needed to do on the car. But
Well, and the car didn't sit there for 3 years. You probably took it out a time or two. Let's be honest, right?
It made it for you road trips. Yeah.
There you go. Nice. I love
Guaranteed. I see Ted out there, young Ted, like 13, 14 years old, sneaking out, driving the car around the neighborhood, picking up some friends, going to Dairy Queen, getting ice cream.
This is a true story. I never got in the car, but there were a few kids that I grew up with that were probably 13, 14 that would get in their moms or dads. Honda Prelude. Anybody tuning in from my hometown that knows what I mean? The Honda Prelude driving around with a 13, 14-year-old.
It was known.
Good God. Unbelievable. Anyhow. Well, good stuff. So you bought a car when you were 13. I'm going to tell that to my kids this afternoon. Very impressive. So how did you go from washing cars, washing dishes, to working on cars, to then, getting in IT?
So IT actually kind of happened on a whim. In college, I had really first paid job as an internship in college was working for the Nebraska Rural Electric Association. So I was from Nebraska originally, got into the electrical, utility industry. Nobody there knew how to use a computer. They got into the satellite television business, so I actually learned all about satellite television with the National Rural Telecommunications Cooperative. So I learned all about satellites. I learned about cable. I learned about telephony at the time, and then computers. We were using. I'll date myself again here. 360 baud modems to actually activate satellite service for people that had the big 12-foot satellite dishes out in the middle of nowhere, right? So that's kind of how I got into IT. Then it's just kind of scaled from there. So I was actually on the IT operations side for a long time. Was the site IT director for Media One, the cable company here in Atlanta, before AT&T bought them and Comcast bought them. And so that's kind of where my whole IT career started. Was,
that's great.
Back from that.
I always love working with sales folks, or in your case, a regional sales manager, who cut their teeth as IT operations for a decade or more. Because they understand that side of the business so much more than a quota and just selling things. That's great to hear.
Yeah, it's helped me a lot because now I can walk in with the business sense of what I'm selling, not just the technology sense.
Yeah, 100%. So, we talk about what we enjoy in a lot of different categories here on the podcast. What do you enjoy most about the IT field? What keeps you coming back?
I learn something new every day, right? I mean, the way that IT works today and has, it's always kind of the same thing. New names, same issues, same problems, same stuff. I mean, how long have we been selling disaster recovery solutions to people?
Yeah, and 20 years.
That still isn't right.
Or longer, right?
Exactly.
SunGuard. Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, you keep coming back with those same business issues with the latest technology to solve problems that you've probably solved 100 times before, but it stays relevant then.
It's so interesting, and I'm going to drill down into this for a second. You brought up disaster recovery, and I just want to, throw this out there. If you're struggling with disaster recovery, whether that's RTO, RPO, what age your servers should be before you retire them. Is it a colo? Is it fully managed? Is it DR as a service? Is it managed DR internally? Please reach out to Tier 4. We've done probably 300 or 400 of those projects in the last 9 years. That is what I would call a fastball down the middle of the plate for us, a very good core competency. So again, if you're thinking about making a adjustment or doing something new for DR, again, not as a vendor trying to sell you something, but truly as someone who will sit on your side of the table through the entire project and beyond, please think of Tier 4 advisors, because again, that is something that we have done a lot of. And to Ted's point, it's shocking how many, even larger enterprises, do you have disaster recovery? Yeah, we have another data center. Cool. What does that mean? I've had people answer, what's your DR plan? To pray. I'm like, I don't understand. I'm sorry. Say that again. To pray, like as in to pray to God that, we don't have to use it. I mean, that's literally the answer I've heard before.
Yeah.
So anyhow, good stuff. I'm glad that we're talking through that. So let's talk about accomplishments, right? Mm-hmm. We all, try to accomplish great things. What would you say in your career What has been your greatest accomplishment?
One of the coolest things I got to be involved with was actually helping a large telco here in the Southeast build out kind of pre-cloud type stuff. So I put together a bunch of like on-demand programs for storage, for backup, for SAN, when it all was all coming together, and then created a leasing program to make it so that I did all their capacity management for them and just built out an entire business around delivering on time what they needed instead of them having to go through the PO approval process. We consolidated storage and bladed storage area networking equipment came into play. I was able to create this kind of linear type of program to scale out with that before the cloud was anything. So that was probably one of the best things I've been able to accomplish.
And let's talk about challenges. What would you say some of the bigger challenges or the biggest challenge that you've faced in your professional career has been?
The biggest challenges. So I got in on the sales side of things, just so you know, because I didn't want to work in the data center on Y2K.
Yeah,
so
sure.
That's how I ended up into the
the
sales
dark
process.
side at Y2K.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
Good.
Y2K brought me over to this side.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest challenges have been I've walked in. I can do my best selling and my best business when I walk into something that's just totally on fire. So I feel like I'm a pretty good firefighter. If the biggest challenges are the ones that other people just kind of walk away from, but I'm able to walk into those and help customers break it down, figure out a roadmap to try to resolve the issues, and then help them get resolution, which, again, it's a huge challenge, but it's also makes this job fun.
Well, not to be make things awkward, but that's what we do here at Tier 4. So when your days at Effectual are done,
Perfect.
come on over and fight fires over here at Tier 4 as well. Shout out to all the Effectual people watching here. I'm recruiting Ted on video. But no, nonetheless, I mean, that's a great answer. I mean, of all the times we've asked that question, that's a great answer.
Well, thanks.
Because how often, I saw a quote the other day that was talking about successful people have the ability to handle stress at a different level than most other people. And I don't know, I haven't seen the science, I haven't seen any studies about that, but you talk about fighting fires or handling stress or handling situations where most people would just walk away or give up, or just, a vendor might say, nah, we're not interested in that. That really separates a lot of the folks out there, right?
Well, it does, because not everybody wants to go down that path. They want the easy road, and that's not where you're going to make a mark, right?
Yeah.
Everybody needs help, and a lot of times they need it faster than other times, and you just need to be able to jump into those things and help them break it down when everything's crashing.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Joel, let's keep it moving. Go ahead and start with some of the Q&A.
Yeah, let's do it. So Effectual is a trusted partner of Tier 4. They've joined us at many Tier 4 VIP events. We have many opportunities that we're currently engaged on. So it's very fitting for our audience to get to know Effectual a little bit better. So Ted, if you wouldn't mind, give us a quick insight into your kind of ideal customer profile of who Effectual serves, and then how you serve them, in what ways can they take advantage of your services?
So Effectual, just at a high level, is we are a services company. We do professional services and managed services to help customers with their cloud journey. And it's specifically around AWS and then VMware Cloud on AWS, which is kind of the easy button for customers to do migrations into the cloud without really having to do a lot of changes to their applications and structure. What we have been doing is really the target customer is anybody that's spending between really $20,000 a month with AWS today, to $1 million. We can typically find them cost savings. We can help them with application and database modernization efforts. All those things that, if they went to the cloud even a year ago, there are new pricing plans and there are new feature functionality within applications, in native applications in AWS that they can take advantage of that they may not be doing today. So that's what we do at a high level.
And I'll chime in here real quick. So there's a lot of people that think of cloud the same way we think of Kleenex, in the sense of, hey, pass me a Kleenex. Well, this is a Costco brand tissue paper, actually. A lot of people think of AWS as the cloud, and that's it. Interestingly enough, a lot of people will move to AWS because of that reason, or plenty of other reasons, understanding the scalability and the features and functionality that AWS offers. What's interesting, however, about AWS is the very slippery slope if you do not understand what you're doing. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree.
It's kind of like jumping into an F1 race car and maybe being a 13-year-old who's still washing dishes, who just bought their Ford Fairlane that's going to sit in the backyard. And I share that, somewhat tongue-in-cheek. However, time and time again, for 9 years now, we've been working with clients who have, in some form or fashion, swiped the proverbial credit card, gotten themselves into AWS, and at one point or another, whether it was a week later or a year later or 3 years later, called and said, in the sense of kind of what we talked about earlier, help, there's a fire, I need a firefighter to come help us, right? And again, there's also a war on talent in the sense that a lot of these enterprises are having a challenge finding and retaining the talent to manage a lot of this public hyperscaler infrastructure in-house. Right. And so it goes back to the old build versus buy, or if you can't beat them, join them, so to speak. A lot of these conversations we're having today is, do you want to really go build a team of 20 AWS engineers internally? Or is it better to go to an AWS expert and work with someone who could literally start tonight? Right. Rather than building this team over the next 6, 8, 12 months.
And that's where our professional services and managed services come together, right? So you can think of us as an MSP without a data center.
Yeah.
Our data center is AWS. So we can help with the migration, we can help with the modernization, and then once you're on AWS, we handle all of the back-end things around patch and vulnerability management and just data protection, all those things that you would typically have a system administrator do. And by the way, a lot of folks move stuff to AWS or any other cloud and think, oh, I moved to the cloud, I don't have to do anything else now. Well, it's a shared responsibilities model, right? You're still responsible for all those system administrative tasks with the applications and with your data that you had when it was either sitting in your data center or in a hosted facility. You still have to do all that stuff.
Right. So it's interesting, is taking the public hyperscaler model of the convenience of swiping the card while also wrapping this fully managed component around it and almost offering it as a service.
Correct. Yep. So it's really that managed cloud service, which also comes with, a dedicated service delivery manager. So you've got somebody that you can talk to and not be, 1 in 1,000 in the queue. And we also help with cost monitoring and cost management to make sure that you are taking advantage of those new services and new pricing models as they come out.
Yeah, perfect. So let's address that for a second. How do you help customers with their cloud spend and cost optimization?
So what we have underneath the covers with our managed cloud service, we leverage native cloud AWS services as well as some third-party products that actually help them monitor that cloud spend and take advantage, like I said, of the cost changes in any pricing plans. Or maybe they're running on EC2 instances and it might be cheaper for them to start looking at serverless architecture. And so we can put together a professional services statement of work to help them with that application and database modernization effort to move from the fully managed pieces to allowing them to take advantage of native services and reduce their cost. It kind of goes back to mainframe where you used to pay per transaction. I'm just I got the gray beard, so I'm going to turn the clock back. But on the mainframe, you used to pay per transaction, right, in MIPS. Well, then we went to open systems, and everybody had to have their own server.
Right.
Then they got to virtualization with VMware, right? And so then they could at least take advantage of the virtualization piece. Well, the virtualization now is letting us get into public cloud, or now I can move back to paying per transaction. I don't have to pay for dedicated hardware and dedicated infrastructure and dedicated database architectures anymore. I can actually take advantage of those native services and get to a pay per transaction model, which helps me with my cost optimization all the way around.
That's good stuff.
Yep. So let's continue to talk about that. If someone is already an AWS customer, if they've already said, put me in AWS, give me the Kleenex, how are you able to help them at that point?
So that's a great question. It kind of comes back to what Jake was talking about, from a personnel perspective. We've had a number of prospects and customers who have lost 1, 2, 3, 4 cloud engineers and architects just in the last 6 months. And I don't know if you guys saw it, but a couple weeks ago in Wall Street Journal, there was an article that said, In 2020, there were over 770,000 cloud engineering jobs that were open.
That were open, not filled.
Well, there were recs.
That were out there.
770,000 cloud engineers.
That's a lot.
So 770,000 cloud jobs that are open out there that people are looking to hire. And again, the conversation that we're having with our clients is build versus buy. Right? How fast can you build it versus how fast can you buy it, and what is the ROI to your organization? Curious, and Joel kind of references of people that are already in AWS. So let's say it's a client that's been dabbling in AWS.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're trying to still figure it out. Maybe they've actually migrated half of their workloads to AWS already. When you guys get involved, obviously it's professional services, managed services. Do you have the relationship with AWS though, where you can come back and kind of optimize spend a little bit? Talk about that.
Yes, sure. Yeah. So one of the special things about Effectual is we are the top level of partner with AWS. So we're a premier consulting partner with AWS. We also hold the master services competency for VMware Cloud on AWS through VMware. And then we also have access to over 30 different partner funding programs through AWS and through VMware to help customers offset some of those costs they may have, whether it's for migration, whether it's for specific applications that they're ready to move. We can typically find them funding that will offset, most or and sometimes all the costs that it would take for them to do that migration.
Cool. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what trends are in the cloud industry that are driving your business?
So another great question. I don't know if you guys saw it recently. There was also another article around the fact that in 2020, it was the first year that public cloud spending outpaced enterprise data center spending. So it's been a 10-year trend that's been kind of starting to hockey stick.
Yeah.
It's the cloud, the maturity has gotten to the point where most customers either have some workload in the cloud today or are looking at how to move the rest of the, that last mile of application over, right? So that's where we're finding more opportunities around AS400 or mainframe or those legacy applications that they've just been hanging on to, where now we can come in and help them refactor those things, take advantage of the fact that AWS has, 29 regions around the world, at least 3 data centers per region, help them with security and compliance and availability, and then ultimately the cost optimization piece as well, right? To make that total cost of ownership actually meaningful in today's world.
Right. How do you guys play with, an enterprise that wants to keep, a third of their environment in a colo, a third of their environment in AWS, and a third of their environment maybe in a private cloud somewhere else? Are you guys happy to work with that
Sure.
entire environment? Yeah, speak to that.
And as we all know, the hybrid model is going to be something that stays with us. It's not going to go away. People are still going to have things that are in certain places, whether it's edge compute, whether it's applications that are that just have to be in proximity of whatever the thing is. So at the end of the day, we can come in and help optimize for that. Make sure that then we help the customer with just overall security planning on that. How do they keep visibility? How they do multi-cloud operations? And what we find a lot of the times is a lot of companies have a multi-cloud initiative in a lot of cases because they don't want to get locked in, right? It's the old I don't want to get locked into Oracle. I don't want to get locked into this or that, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's not that it's a multi-cloud, that they have to be operating on multiple clouds. What they really are looking for is, can I be multi-cloud ready? So how do I take advantage of containers? How do I take advantage of serverless architectures? How do I take advantage of those types of tools that let me be multi-cloud ready, as opposed to trying to build out on 3 different clouds where I don't even have people I can get to manage one cloud,
sure,
right, and have to have 3 different operational groups.
Yeah, good stuff.
So what makes you different from your competitors? There's probably a handful of folks out there who do what you do, but curious what makes you stand out above the rest.
I mean, it comes back to, I'm not selling anybody hardware. I'm not having to sell real estate, right? All we do is sell professional services and managed services on top of AWS, which we have our, we have the areas that we focus on, and we are excellent in those areas. We have some of the top talent in those spaces to come in and help customers achieve what they may have been struggling with for months or years in some cases.
Yep.
We can help them get those things knocked out in a couple weeks.
So what changes in the public cloud do you see coming in the future?
And I think it's all going to come back around to there's going to be more and more native services that each cloud begins to offer and give customers the opportunity to get away from legacy types of licensing models. You'll see much more edge compute that will be factored in, I think, on all the different clouds to where they can have that edge, master type of relationship. I think you'll start to see more and more, opportunities like we talked about with DR, right? Just plug in and all of a sudden all of the applications and the things that you're trying to accomplish, it's going more from the, infrastructure and platform as a service, more and more to software as a service, depending on what the thing is that you're doing.
Could not agree more. SaaS is going to take over the world. And, you got companies out there right now that have been around 3-5 years, cloud native from day one, never owned a server in their entire existence. And, interestingly enough, we're talking about legacy apps that need to be replatformed, people that are still on AS400s, things like that. Again, that might be, 10, 20, 30% of the workloads out there in a decade. But, if an enterprise can go SaaS, why would they even consider doing anything else?
Right. It handles everything that you want to handle. Why would you want to run your own application?
That's interesting, actually, and I'm going to double down on that. Do you see a day in a decade or two where IT teams no longer have an infrastructure department or an infrastructure silo within the IT department? Is that possible? Maybe for the right cloud native company, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's possible. Where I see the opportunity, though, in those same people that would be in those infrastructure jobs today is they're going to be working on performance and compliance and security types of aspects within the public cloud, right? They're going to become those experts on the things that they were good at with on-prem stuff. Now they're going to have to change those talents into how do they do those same things, because that's always going to be, back on the customer.
Well, I think what you're saying is they're technical in nature type of professionals.
Right.
They have the capability of being a quick learn. So instead of racking and stacking metal like they did 15 years ago, they're going to embrace, maybe newer technologies, move into security, compliance, maybe, a CIO, CTO role.
Yes.
Whatever it might be.
Cloud security is obviously important, right? So how much attention are your clients focusing on making sure that their cloud environment is secure?
So we lead with security as part of any cloud migration or any cloud assessments that we do with customers, because obviously in today's world, security is number one, right? Ransomware's taken over so many companies, and Bitcoin's at $60,000 a pop now. So, when we're looking at what the first thing is most customers are trying to focus on, it's make sure I don't have any security holes, right? Whether it's multi-factor authentication stood up right away, or different types of security gateways that are put in place. It's always security first, and then it comes back to, depending on the company, compliance, right? What do I need to be doing for PCI? Am I handling credit cards? Am I doing handling healthcare records? All those types of things that fall back into that compliance bucket, and then performance, right, is typically the third piece of that, along with security, because I still have to be able to support my customer base. Even with those first two things, locked down, I still got to be perform an application and serve my customer base. So.
I'll share, when I started this company, I still remember a meeting that I had with a team of IT professionals down at a bank here in Georgia. I'll just keep it high level. And there were people in that meeting that said the word never and cloud in the same sentence, right? As in, we will never go to the cloud. Now, this was 8, 9, 10 years ago or whatever. Obviously, a lot of stuff has changed. As you think about cloud security, as you think about security as a whole, I think a lot of organizations, or even, God knows, governments, have admitted long ago that they are more secure in the cloud than they ever would be in their own environment.
Right.
What have you seen? What's your experience in that? Is it, is it foolproof? Hey, I migrate everything to the cloud. I'm working with Effectual. We're good to go. Everyone sleep good at night. Or is it one of those, there's always something around the next corner?
It's a continuous battle, just like anything else, right? And like, no matter whose cloud you're working off of, right? Those cloud providers make sure that what's on the cloud is secure, right? So they're securing their compute and their databases and networks and all those things and the four walls of the data center. But you as the customer are always going to be responsible for what's secure in their cloud, right? So not only do you take advantage of what they've got within their architecture, but then you may need to add on layers based on your own environment, your own customer base, and all those things.
Yeah.
And security, just like you guys know, it comes down to one person. One person could blow away your security.
One person could leave a back door open.
Right. With whether it's not doing something right, doing it wrong, not doing what they were supposed to do.
We talk about these public hyperscalers or any cloud provider or any data center vendor, and it's kind of, the analogy is you are a landowner, you're a farmer within a kingdom, right? So that kingdom is AWS, for example, for today's conversation. And you've got your own, 100 acres. The kingdom is not responsible for securing your 100 acres, right? However, your kingdom might keep you safe because you're a part of that kingdom from maybe other attacks that might not necessarily want to fight the kingdom per se, right?
That's an
Something
interesting
like that.
analogy.
Yeah. So you got to secure your 100 acres, regardless if you're attached to a kingdom or not.
That's right.
Right. So
that's good.
I'm curious to know, and just kind of doubling down around, what cloud is today, what it was yesterday, what it's going to be tomorrow. I'm fascinated by the concept of the economics of cloud continue to change probably every 6 to 12 months, right? If you're buying something today, you're going to pay less than the person that bought yesterday, hypothetically speaking. At what point do these public hyperscalers start refreshing this gear? I mean, you're talking about tens of millions of square feet of cabinets of gear that, over the last 5, 6, 8 years, I mean, they have to keep this gear, new, relevant. When does that come back and bite the hyperscaler? Ever or never?
I don't think it ever will, simply because, just like you guys have helped customers with kind of technology lifecycle management, right? It's all about they're continuously adding, they're continuously swapping out. When something breaks, they just move a cabinet in. It's at scales that we can't comprehend.
No, I know that. Yeah.
Right? So when you think about that and think, are they ever going to run out? Well, no, because just like we've seen, over the last 20 years in data centers, right? You're packing more and more power consumption into a floor tile than you ever were before, right? Okay. So I think it's just the same ways that, technology refresh has gone on within most people's data centers and hosted facilities. They're doing that at a scale that we can't comprehend.
What conversations have you had with larger enterprises that lean in politically to this, green initiative, and understanding that their data living on servers and data centers is certainly doing something, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on. Have you had those conversations? Is that something you help clients with, or is that candidly irrelevant at this point?
I think the conversation's out there, and you got to be able to show that you're doing those types of things. And I think that's where you've seen Amazon and quite frankly everybody in whether it's hosting facilities or whatever, try to create green initiatives, reduce power consumption, and those types of things. And I think it comes back to electricity is one of those commodities that is hard to measure from a green initiative. So I think the denser the footprint, the moving customers to on-demand types of applications where they're paying per transaction instead of paying for physical infrastructure is moves along that green path to help make ecologically sound decisions for customers.
Got another analogy for you when you talks about public hyperscalers. Joel, maybe you'll appreciate this one as well.
Lay it on us.
You think about you driving through a downtown section of any sort of larger city, right? You turn and look at the large buildings. It's 9:30 at night, and there are floors of that building that are still lit. There ain't no employees in there, right?
Right.
And then you think about the public hyperscaler analogy being, motion detected lights, things like that. Stuff that turns off after 5 minutes of no motion. We've all been in a bathroom that turns off when we're in there, like waving your arms, that type of thing. It's kind of weird. But, public hyperscalers do offer the ability, to your point, use it while you need it. And guess what? Flip the switch off when you don't.
Correct.
Just like we do at our homes, just like we do anywhere else. You walk into a room, you turn the light on, or if it's motion detected, it turns on. You walk out, you flip the switch, you turn it off. There's got to be some sort of value in some of those green conversations in that regard, I would think, right? Because it's not always on. It's, in fact, on when you need it, and it's off, and in theory or reality, saving energy when you're not using it.
Right. And then back to you're passing those costs along to your customer. So you're actually able to reduce the cost of your goods sold if you can cut down your own costs as well and only make it for when the customer is using it.
That'll be interesting over the next decade. I'm going to throw some crazy Jakeism out there, but over the next decade, we're going to find a way, whether it's AWS or Effectual or Azure or whoever, to somehow quantify that back to the customer.
Right.
Of how they're impacting the environment for better or for worse, right? It's just like a net promoter score. Like regardless of what your net promoter score is, you got to tell it truthfully. And that'll be interesting to see, I think, over the next decade. See if we continue to trend that direction. I bet you we will.
I would agree.
Cool.
I would agree.
All right, Ted, at the end of every download podcast, we like to have our esteemed guest, Price is Right, spin the wheel, kind of like the game show. So why don't you let fate decide what question we're going to ask and answer all three of us.
All right, here we go.
Let's do it. Number eight. All right. So if you were an animal, what animal would you be? I'll let you guys think about that for a second. I'll go ahead and start. My kids, my wife, they call me a lion. I think because maybe I'm a little bit larger than the average human. Maybe I have a little bit of a roar at times, but I'm also, maybe cuddly. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe a little TMI here for the download podcast. But I'm going to go with lion, even though I like the idea of being a bird, maybe a giraffe because of my height. Who knows? Maybe something that swims in the ocean from time to time because I love the water. But I'm gonna go with my wife and kids on the lion. Joel's laughing at me. Joel, we're coming to you next. What are you?
So the other day, there's actually an app that you can download. You can take a test, and it will tell you like what is your animal.
Right.
So I did
That's all
this.
spyware, by the way.
Exactly. It's all fake. Yeah, it's all garbage. But I did this just the other week, and a crow is what mine came back with, and it's like
you're laughing at me, and you're a crow.
But I don't agree with
what the hell?
I don't agree that I'm a crow. But that's what it came back with. If I were to choose, I think I would be like a wolf or something. Like they stay in the pack, they're out there hunting, and they're
a lone wolf or in the pack.
In the pack. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Staying with the pack, but still kind of bad A, but also at the same time, family unit, staying together in the pack. That's what I'd be a wolf. That's what I'd be.
I like it. Good stuff.
Not a crow.
Not a crow. Laughing at me because I say lion and he's a damn crow over there. Ted, I hope you're not a crow. What is your animal? What's your spirit animal?
I have no idea what my spirit animal is, but I think it'd be fun to be an eagle.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Just cruising around.
You bet.
Looking for fish, looking for stuff to eat, and just kind of glancing over the entire countryside to see what's going on.
You ever been up to Alaska?
I have not.
But had an opportunity to go up to Alaska a little bit ago. More bald eagles than I've ever seen in my whole life. You look over on this little rock formation, little island deal. Yep. There's 15 bald eagles. They're all flying over and stuff. Eagle's pretty cool.
I actually grew up, like I said, out in western Nebraska where we had a ton of bald eagles.
Oh, you
that
did?
Flew through. Yeah, it was wild when you get to see them.
Amazing creatures, aren't they?
Huge.
Unreal.
You not realize how big they are.
If you ever get a chance to cross paths with a crow or an eagle, choose an eagle.
Definitely.
They're a lot cooler than a crow.
Yeah, crows are lame. When I saw that on the app, I was like, "What is this?
A
That's
crow.
lame."
I hope you didn't pay for that app.
Definitely not.
My goodness, I'd return it if I did.
It's a little sketchy, to be honest. So I wouldn't advocate for that. But
Uninstall the app. It's probably spyware.
Exactly.
And speaking of crossing paths with an eagle or a crow, if you ever get a chance to cross paths with a lion, I don't recommend that. It's a good way to end.
Here we go.
Want to thank Ted Turkington with Effectual, our partners at Effectual, for everything that they do for our clients and customers. Again, if you or anyone you know has a data center, telecom, managed services, security, or emerging tech project coming up next week, next month, or next year, you can find us at tier4advisors.com or reach out to your local regional president, whether that's out in Seattle, Boston, Philly, Nashville, LA, Phoenix, Dallas, or other markets. Greatly appreciate you tuning in. Hope all is well. Take care. God bless.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you.